All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I am from Newline. That's what it says on my shirt, so let's just go with that. I have one rule when I do this. The one rule is, under any circumstances, overthink anything that I tell you today. That's the only rule. If I find that you ask me a question, which, by the way, I invite you to do so. Now I'm probably going to scare you off. You're probably going to say, no, I'm not going to ask you anything now. But if you ask me a question and it looks like you're in danger of overthinking it, I will point that out to you. Because what we have here is really a lot more straightforward than you might think. The way you want to think about this panel is that it is a vehicle that you will use to deliver content to your students. That's what it is. If you think of it as being anything significantly more than that, then you are going to be in danger of overthinking it. Hey, the universe does not revolve around this thing. The universe revolves around what your students need in order for them to succeed. And this is going to be a tool. Well, it's going to be a toolbox. It's going to be a toolbox that you'll open up, and you'll dig out tools as appropriate for you to make that happen. But in reality, that's really what you're going to be doing. Is you're going to be driving this bus, delivering content to your students, okay? And what I'm here to do is I'm here really, this isn't really training so much, but really what it is, it's me to provide the guidance you need so that when we open up that toolbox, I'll show you the tools and I'll point out what they do, and then you can make informed decisions on whether or not those tools are actually going to be the thing that you want to use. And what may happen is as we go through this, I'll show you something and you'll think, hey, oh, hey, that's pretty cool. But I don't know that that's going to be relevant to what I'm doing in the classroom every day. You know what? That's fine. You will not hurt the panel's feelings. If there's a tool that you don't really care about, the panel will not care, okay? So you can move on with the rest of your life. Do not overthink any of this. But the way that we're going to approach this is I'm just going to kind of start from the start, where I'll show you what sorts of things are right here on the panel's home screen. And then we'll talk about when you have a connected source, what does that look like when you're using your connected source, which could be your teaching device, that could be your laptop. And what is that going to look like when you have that connected to the screen, okay? So let's go ahead and dig right in here. Now, when you power the panel on, what power button's right there, right? You turn it on like you turn on a TV. So if you want to treat it like a TV in that sense, absolutely you can. And it's going to take you here. It really, really, really wants you to touch it. It's begging, saying, please, please touch me. No, it doesn't say it like that. That's weird. Press to start, and then you end up here at the home screen. The home screen exists for two reasons. The first reason it exists is to get you from point A to point B as quickly and efficiently as possible. That would be your connected source. That would be probably your laptop or whatever your main teaching device is. The second reason it exists is to get you access to that are in fact embedded on the panel, mostly do not have anything to do with a connected source. That's kind of nice, right? It's nice, it's convenient, and it feels good to know that if for some reason something over here ain't working for me that day, that's no problem. The panel's got me. So the panel will allow me to accomplish things when my plan A ain't working for me at that moment, okay? But your plan A should, in fact, and yeah, listen, we shove more stuff into these panels these days than we ever have before. It's pretty remarkable. Now, the types of things that I talk about that 3 years ago I never talked about at all. But even with that, your plan A is still going to be your connected source. Again, this is kind of the don't overthink part that I'm talking about, because the things that you do right now, when you're in class and you fire up your teaching device and now it's go time for students, keep doing those things. You do not have to stop doing those things because, as I said, the panel's a vehicle to deliver content, right? So when you have something connected to the panel, and we have two cables, in the accessories box, which is this very uninteresting, plain-looking brown box right here, but it's got all the goodies in it. And one of those goodies is going to be a complete set of cables. talking about a normal laptop. If other devices come into the equation, we could talk about that. Maybe we want to talk about that offline. But if we're talking about a normal, call it a Windows laptop, are you guys standardized on Windows? Let's just go ahead and throw that out there. Windows 10, cool? Okay, good. So if you're standardized on Windows machines, the two cables that you're going to care about are HDMI. That's an obvious one, right? Because if you think about your TVs at home and the way you plug something into your TV at home, well, how do you do that? More often than not, you're going to use an HDMI cable to make that happen, right? So cable number one is going to be HDMI. That's going to deliver video and sound from your thing to the panel. But there's a second cable that we have to have happen here. There's also, in the box, a USB cable. And every HDMI port, I'm going to come because I got a camera pointed at me. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to come back here. And that was a cue for my man to come over here and move the camera real quick. Okay, here we go. And this is the rear I/O of the panel. This is where most of the ports are located. So 2 of the 3 HDMI ports are located right there. There is actually one here in this compartment in the front. You can use that if you want, that's fine. I often refer to this as the guest port because it's the easiest one to get to. I often recommend in a classroom, use the ones back here first because then the connections are kind of out of sight, out of mind. Kind of see where I'm going with that? But you got a couple of HDMI ports here to work with, HDMI 1 and HDMI 2. See how we do that? And each HDMI port has a USB port labeled, tiny letter labeled type. And I think with me saying that word, you can probably glean what happens USB cable in. So every HDMI port has an associated USB touch port. So when that's working, then we go back to the source. You know that the panel sees that something is plugged in. Well, it's going to light that button up in white. Okay, so I got my laptop over there on HDMI 2. The panel sees it. It says, hey, there's something there. Fantastic. Now, it's conceivable that you might have more than one thing plugged into the panel. I can think of a number of scenarios in which that could happen. So you may have a few of these buttons lit up in white. Maybe you were not the one who connected those things. Maybe a nice IT person did that for you. So you don't necessarily know where anything is plugged in. Okay, you don't say, let's give our guys a hand. I'm going to talk to you guys later anyway. So there we go. Oh, there we go. See, that's nice. Isn't that nice? There we go. Okay, that's all you get for now. Okay, so now, when we want to sift, it's like, okay, so the guys did it for me. So I don't know where things are. You don't worry about it. You don't have to guess. Well, you can guess a little bit, right? Just touch one of the buttons. Touch it. It turns blue. And it gives you this lovely live preview right here on the screen. Look at that. Oh, there's my laptop. How about that? Touch and go. That's it. It's that simple, boys and girls. Now, there's also a physical remote control in the box. This is not the fanciest remote in the world. So don't think you can be like on the other side of the room and that this is going to keep, you got to be a little close to the panel. But there are port buttons also on this remote. So if you want to use a physical remote control, you can do that too, okay? But that source selector gets us here. And then when our computers are now the source being displayed on the screen, then here's what's really happening. What's really happening is, don't think like, hey, I'm using a panel. No, that's not really what's happening here. What's really happening here is you're using your computer, and instead of driving that computer with a little touchpad or clicky mouse, this is a giant touchpad that you will use to drive that computer. So when you touch a thing, that's like a left click, and that activates stuff. If you touch and hold a thing, that's a right click, and so this is a mouse. It's a touchpad. It's a giant touchpad on the cart. That's it. It really is that simple. It really doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. So when you want to do something that you would typically do in class, fire up a website, fire up some documentation, fire up a specialized program that you use to teach a certain thing, that is how you will make that happen, just by touching your way through it. And then yes, you'll also now have access to tools that you can go to work with whatever content is on the screen. And yeah, I'm going to talk more about that as I go. But that's the first thing I wanted to show you, was how easy it is to have your computer be connected as a source on the panel and then get to that source. Okay, so we try to make it as easy as possible to do that. Now, in order to get back to the home screen, you'll notice I've got these side toolbars on both sides. I know I got a kind of a weird blue background, so it's hard to see, but you can see that I'm moving them up and down. Those toolbars are what are known as overlay toolbars. They stay on the screen regardless of what's happening up there. So if I wanted to get back to the home screen, how would I do that? The button right in the middle, it looks like a house. House means go home, figuratively. Figuratively go home. And here we are. And we're back at the home screen. Okay. So that's it, kids. That's half of it. We just covered half of it right there, is having your source and going to your source. Okay. But as I mentioned, if I migrate over here, yeah, so here's where we have some tools that you can utilize that are in fact embedded in the panel, meaning that if you can turn your panel on, these things will be here for you. So if plan A ain't working for you that day, and you can pick your favorite reason why that would be, it's nice to know that once again, the panel's got you. So the 6-pack of buttons kind of refers to what I'm talking about here. So we're going to talk a little bit about this, but again, we're not going to overthink it. Not overthink it. But before I even get into that, I wanted to show you a couple of things. We have very recently made an update to these panels. This panel is in fact fully up to date. That's one of the first things I checked when I got here. So I'm going to go ahead and make the assumption that the guys did their thing. And these panels are mostly at 1.6. So these panels mostly at 1.6 across the, okay, cool. All right, he gave me the nod. That's good enough for me. So what that means is you will in fact have access to some nifty new features. One of the new features that we added, and I put them down here in this area. This is a shortcut area where you can have shortcut buttons. If I hit the add button, you can see that you can actually shortcut a place or a thing. So it's a very, very convenient way to get one-touch shortcuts to things you use on a regular basis. One of the things I put down there, our brand spanking new App Store. Now officially have a Newline App Store. It's curated, so it's not like going to the Google Play Store where you get the wild, wild west. No, it's curated. These are things that we have tested to make sure they work on the panel. And obviously, as we move forward, we continue to get feedback. We'll continue to add to this as we go, but we've got a pretty good selection of things. We have them categorized, as you can see. If I scroll down, we've got some selections for you just right there, and some other selections. So yeah, it's real easy to navigate around. You can search for a thing if you want to do a search for a thing. But let's go into the video apps category just to show you what that looks like. So absolutely, there's a version of Netflix if you need to use that. There are a couple of decent YouTube players. So yes, if you want to make YouTube happen, this would be a really, really good way to do that as opposed to trying to do that on the panel's embedded browser. I'll just go ahead and point that out right now. YouTube on the panel's browser, not going to be your best solution. So these would be good choices, but we have other ways to make YouTube happen, which I'm also going to show you. But that's really what this guy is about. It's about getting you access to some tools that you're probably going to be familiar with that you use elsewhere, and there you go. So there's a Newline App Store. Knock yourself out. As far as I know, based on what I have been told, you are going to be permitted to have it. If that changes, that's not my fault. So don't blame me for that if that changes. Yell at somebody else for that. So if I, yes, sir. Are we good?
The questions, do you want me to ask them as they ask them, or are you going to have a questions later?
You can, no, go ahead and MC them. Go ahead and MC them. What do we got? Give me a question.
Is asking, how do you get to the App Store again?
So the way that we make the App Store happen, if I had home, where it is located is in the gadgets area. And that's where that happens. Now, I find that it's very convenient to have this shortcut area down here. So I would recommend that if that we're going to explore, go ahead and pop it down there in the shortcut area. Hit that add button, hit the gadgets button up here, and then you can touch whatever you want to be in that shortcut area. So that would be a good way to do that. But things that are all, if they don't have a button on the 6-pack, if they're not special enough to be on the 6-pack, then they're located in gadgets. That's where we put them. Okay, good question. All right, very good. Yeah, just keep them coming, guys, keep them coming. So now, so that's a cool thing to have access to. So here's another thing, right next door to that button, here's another thing we added. We call it the Newline Classroom Tools. Now this is really simple, okay? What this is, this window, it's an overlay window so you can move around. It is a window full of widgets that you can use over existing content. So just for fun, I'll fire up the whiteboard. Here comes the whiteboard. Oh, actually, I'm very glad I did this. I'm very glad I did this So here, guys, I'm going to give 5 minutes right here because I'm going to talk about this here. So the whiteboard that I pulled up, I'm going to go on a side here for a second. The whiteboard that I pulled up, this dark canvas like this, when I see that, it tells me that the panel is pointed to the original whiteboard software on the system. It's known as the classic whiteboard. It's actually fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a perfectly decent whiteboard, but we have another one. We went ahead and decided, instead of trying to keep adding to this thing, we decided, hey, you know what, let's just go ahead. Let's just put a whole new whiteboard program on this panel. We gave it a fancy name. We call the new whiteboard, New Whiteboard. So here's how we get to it. We head back home, and then I got my 4 round buttons here in the top right-hand corner. The second one from the right looks like a gear or a cog in a machine. That brings up the panel settings window. Let me get rid of my classroom tools. Hang on. Okay. For the most part, there isn't a lot for you guys to do in here. I mean, the nice thing is the guys will have these things set up the way that you need them set up without you needing to mess around with anything. So it's not like, I mean, you can go in here and explore, that's fine, but there's not a lot here for you to mess around with. But one thing we want to do is we want to go to the whiteboard section and we want to touch new version. Oh, and henceforth and forevermore, when you fire up the whiteboard, it will be that new version. Oh, but wait, there's more. So I do not need to have to go, I do not need to go back to the home screen in order to get to the whiteboard. I actually have another button that I can go to that's available to me to get to that whiteboard regardless of what's on my screen. And yes, once again, our friend the side toolbar comes into play here. Right above the house, a button that looks like a pencil going that way on a flat writing surface. That is, get me to the whiteboard. And here it is. And this is the new whiteboard. And there's some gobbledygook. You can, if you want to look like the gobbledygook, go for it. Go for it. You mean you can, but I'm going to skip it. I don't need it. I've seen it before. So now here we are. We're at this whiteboard. We're going to spend some time here. We're going to spend some time here, but I'm going to go right back to the home screen real quick. Get my classroom tools. Hit that whiteboard again. So now I can show you the widgets. And that's all they are, guys. Don't overthink it. Again, these are widgets. There's some nice stuff here, though. We got a stopwatch. If you want to do some timed stuff, you can do some time stuff. You can have more than one widget on the screen at once if you want. Just go back to the menu. How about the traffic light? That's kind of fun. Close that menu. Red means stop. Green means go. And so we can work with some content with some simple widgets to do an activity. Nice. So play with that. Play with those to your heart's content. And you can make them go away. Hit the X. It makes it go away. If you're done with the tools entirely, hit the little door button, hit exit, and they're gone. Easy. Okay? So that's another cool new thing that we added is some widgets that you can use over existing content. And it doesn't have to be the whiteboard. I just showed you that as an example. You could have your computer on the screen. And if those classroom tools are open, then you can use those tools over stuff on your computer. Absolutely. So feel free to use that to your heart's content. Okay. We'll come back to the whiteboard. I'm going to skip Newline broadcast just for the moment, and I'm going to go to the 6-pack and talk about the buttons that are there. So one of the cool things about the 6-pack is that these buttons are actually customizable. It's a part of the user interface that is customizable. And that's nice because you want an opportunity to have this thing look the way you need it to look so that you can get from point A to point B as quickly and efficiently as possible, right? So here's a button right here, this button labeled Windows. Now, you could absolutely be forgiven for thinking that, okay, I hit that button and I've got my Windows laptop plugged in and it should go to that laptop. And then you'll hit the button and very quickly figure out that it doesn't do that because it even tells you built-in PC, which is not what you guys are using. And that's fine. You don't have to have that. Okay, you guys have laptops. You're fine. You don't need the built-in PC. All right, so and then of course it's going to take me right back to the home screen. Yay. So that button doesn't necessarily do anything for you. And you could also be forgiven for thinking, Tim, that's kind of dumb to have a button there that's not going to do anything for me. But remember what I said. This is customizable, so we can change the buttons on the 6-pack. How do we do that? Pick the one you want to change, touch and hold for a couple seconds, and it will give you this menu. Oh, here we go. So maybe I have my laptop plugged into HDMI 2. And in this case, I actually do, so that would count. Okay, oh, look, now it's HDMI 2. Okay, so then I touch the thing, and then, oh, I can call it my laptop if I choose to do that. Now, are you required to do this? No. You're not required to do this, it's optional. But know that you can modify those things if you want to. Do we have a question?
We do. From Marcus. Is there a way to pull definitions to the current definition and such, like drag and drop?
Marcus, that's a little vague, my man. That's a little vague. Shoot me some more details in the scenario you're describing, and I will do my best to give you a sufficient answer to that. I will tell you though, Marcus, here, let me throw this at you. Short answer, when you talk about anything that is drag and drop enabled, the short answer is yes. Because if you have if you have objects on the screen, you can hold and drag objects on the screen if that's in fact what we're talking about here. So the short answer is yes. But you may want to give me some more details. So feel free to give me some more details. Okay, so now back to the 6-pack. So here's the thing. Right next door to the Windows button, there is a button labeled Screen Sharing. This is interesting. So it fires up a program called Newline Cast. Newline Cast is our wireless casting application. One thing I'm going to want to see here is that's what I want to see. Okay, good. All right. I always take a look at the session ID, make sure I see one set of 6 digits, not 2 sets of 5 digits. So thank you guys for having that port open. Once again, IT comes through for us. So happy about that. So yeah, so this is what you use when you want an opportunity to be untethered from your panel. So it is what you think it is, right? It allows you to have your thing, which doesn't have to be a phone or a tablet or a Chromebook, and you can display what's on that thing on the panel wirelessly. Wireless casting, that's the technical term for it. It is very, very easy to use because you just follow the on-screen instructions. So I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to assume that you guys can read. That's an assumption I'm going to make. So the first thing that you do, open your Display Note app. Okay, so where Display Note? Well, you get it at your appropriate app store and you get it for free. If you see something that says Display Note Classroom or what, no. You just Display Note. It'll be a white DN in a black box. That's the one that you want. You get that for free. You can also go to this website, and if you've got on your Windows laptop, you go to that website, you can download it for Windows. You might need some intervention from them to do that, how they have your laptop set up, but yes. But you can grab that. Do you guys have a centralized software center where people go to? No, that's a no. You guys just kind of wing it? Okay, cool. I dig it. No, I dig it. I dig it. Okay, but that's the idea, is you go to this website and download on your Windows laptop. That's how we want to make that happen. You can also, it's also available for Mac, and there's also an extension for Chrome. So Chromebooks can do this too, okay? Oh, hey, listen, don't panic. Don't panic. Just hit new session. Hit it again. Okay, now here's a case where if in fact our good friends at Display Note are, and I don't know why it would be happening right now, but if they are doing maintenance on their servers, this could happen. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you a trick. Here's a neat trick. So on the very bottom button on the side toolbar, it's labeled PC, which does the same thing as that Windows button that I showed you, which means for you, nothing, okay? But here's what you can do. If you hold the button, okay, now it's back. All right, well, I'll still show you the trick. I'm still gonna show you the trick. So when you touch and hold the button, it splits it into 2 additional buttons. The one that you care about is the one on the top. It looks like 2, one in front of the other. Give that a touch, and it shows you all of the apps that are currently open on the panel. And then you do it like a phone, where you can swipe them closed or just hit clear all, and there you go. Okay, so that's how you can, if something is goofy, that's how you can kind of reset it by closing those out. Now, if that doesn't work and something is still goofy, your next step is turn your panel off, count to 10, turn it back on again. That's your next step, okay? Let's go ahead, let's hit, yeah, we got a question. We got a question?
So from Lisa Roth, where can you click to see if you are on? How can you tell?
If you are particularly nerdy and you really want to see that version number, you can do that. The way you make that happen is we go back to settings, we scroll all the way down to the bottom where it says system. When we hit system, it gives us another set of options here. The one that we care about is the one labeled about. and we give it a touch, and then we have a whole bunch of stuff. Firmware version, as you can plainly see, is right there in the middle, and there's a whole bunch of gobbledygook there, which we don't care about. The one that we care about is right in the middle. Look for a capital V as in Victor. That stands for version. And then it'll have the number after it. If you see 1.6, you're good. You should, because I am going to have confidence that the guys handled that. So I'm guessing that your panels are all going to be at 1.6. Now they're probably looking at me like, not quite, Tim. Okay, hey, I tried, man. I tried here, all right? I tried. But thank you for your honesty. What you got?
What are the securities in place to prevent your students from hijacking your smartphone?
Okay, here's why I'm laughing. It's not that it's not a valid question, but it goes back to what I was saying before. Don't try and think of this thing like it's a full-blown tablet. It's not. So there's nothing here for a student to hijack. Now, if your concern is not so much the panel, but the casting part, right? So if I had Johnny with his Chromebook and I had this rocking and rolling, what's to stop Johnny from just going, okay, and then putting the number, and then whatever, you can just use your imagination there. What's to stop that? We can stop that, so let me go ahead. Well, it looks like it's stable. So I don't have good bandwidth on my phone, but I'm gonna go ahead and try this anyway. So I'm just gonna use my phone. I keep reaching for my, because I normally keep my glasses here. I got a microphone here. Okay, here we go. So I'm gonna use so I don't have good bandwidth with my phone, but I think I can make this work. So let's go ahead and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna fire up display on my, but before I do that, here's a thing I wanna ensure to make sure Johnny doesn't do a knucklehead thing here. So I'm gonna go down to settings, session management, moderator mode. The top item there, you want that to be on. You always want that to be on, because when that's on, Johnny and the other little angels can connect to a session, but they cannot start casting until you are granting them permission to do so. Yes, ma'am.
So a student can't airdrop an inappropriate video from their phone?
If moderator mode is on, make sure moderator mode is on. It's not on by default. It's not on by default. Yes, ma'am.
Setting in that setting.
There's not really, it's not really, yes. So if I go back to settings, if I go to network and connections, the Airplay Receiver, when Airplay Receiver is on, what that means is that Newline cast is Airplay compliant. So if you're an Apple user and you would prefer Airplay, which by the way, I get, because I'm not trying to throw Apple under the bus here, but Apple really wants you to use their stuff. So Airplay could be a friendlier way on an Apple device to do that, and you can. So Newline cast is Airplay compliant. But here's the thing about that. The thing about that is, when you use Display Note, it works over the internet, meaning devices do not have to be on the same network as the panel in order to do this. Great. But if you Airplay, that's LAN dependent, meaning that devices have to be on the same network in order for you to do that. So if you want to Airplay, you can, but your Airplay thing has to be on the same network as the panel to do that. Otherwise, there are no special rules for that. Okay? Good question. All right, so now, I'm on an Android thing, so yes, sir.
When you use Display Note, are you still going to be required to keep your cables hooked up on the side, or?
One thing has nothing to do with the other. Good question. One thing has nothing to do with the other. So the short answer is no, although, I mean, if you're thinking, hey, can I untether myself? And then, yeah, that's the whole idea, is that it gives you an opportunity to untether yourself. Now, are we best served keeping ourselves tethered when we want to do something heavy duty on the panel? Yeah, I'll talk about that in a second, but yes, you have an opportunity to be untethered. That's the whole idea here. So let me show you how this works. Let's put something pretty on the screen here. My bandwidth is going to be great, so this is not going to be spectacular, but I'll go ahead and put it on the screen. Okay, now here comes Display Note. Kind of looks like that, right? What is it going to want? It's going to want the session ID. It changes every time you start a new session. And then my name is Tim. Okay, now this might take a second because I wasn't going to have them put my phone on the network. That's a bridge too far. That's a bridge too far. Oh, that's not bad. It's that bad. It's that bad. Okay, well, there you go. There you go. All right, so now here I am. I got to invite myself, but hold on a second because here's another fun thing. There's this thing down here called grid view. Let's take a look at that for a second. I hit that. Okay, now I'm going to invite myself from here. Oh, okay. Hey, my share button showed up. How about that? So share this, go here, do this. And I got a big cat drinking out of a toilet bowl. Okay, so now this is great because it means that we can have up to 4 devices connected. We can display more than one at one time. We can actually display all 4 at one time. Now, is that a practical thing? No, honestly, guys. I mean, because it's going to put those boxes in the corners of the screen. That's too small. That's too small. But what I do like is I like this because then you can do side-by-side comparisons of things. I think that's pretty cool. So if you do 2 devices at a time. All right. Now, here's another cool thing because we can also leverage the panel's embedded annotation tools. Because as you would expect, because I was hearing some chatter over here from the ladies over here, and they were talking about their smart boards. And it sounded like one person in particular was a little nervous about maybe this thing versus the smart board. I can understand you being nervous about that. But here's a cool thing. The cool thing is that we do have annotation tools that can annotate over anything smoothly and easily. So we go back to our friend the side toolbar, of course. Button number 1 at the very top looks like a pen going that way on the screen. That is Whiteboard Tools in screen annotation mode. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a magic trick. Wow, look at that. No, there's a holder. There's a holder, it's right here. So you get 2 of these in the box. They are magnetic. So this thing, I'm trying to do this one-handed. Why am I trying to do this one-handed? So like that. There's sticky tape on the back. You don't need to use this if you don't want to, because like I said, it's magnetic. That works. So don't feel like, if you want to use the sticky tape, use it. It's fine, but you don't have to, okay? And I'm going to grab my thin utensil. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to choose a color. And the thing is, I'm going to make sure my phone stays awake. Okay, here we go. Color and thickness. And then I'm going to circle that big cat and join that drink. And then if I want to, I can screenshot this. Just got to hit that button again. It automatically takes a screenshot and then puts it in the pictures folder on the panel. I'm going to show you that in a little bit. But what I can also do, if I want other options, oh yeah, and there are wizards that tell you, yes, thank you, okay. And what I can also do is if I want options for this, I got another screenshot button down here. It looks like a camera. Well, actually, wait a minute, let me back up, hold up. If you are annoyed by the fact that every time you hit that button, it takes a screenshot every time and you don't want it to do that, yeah, you can change that. There's a settings button here. There's auto screenshot down there. Turn that switch off, and then it won't keep taking that screenshot every time. Because, yeah, you get a screenshot button here. So if you want to do it, hit that button. And it gives you options. You can crop a section if you don't want the whole thing. And I got this button right here in the middle. It looks like 2 boxes in a screen. Give that a touch. And oh, look at what it did. It inserted that screenshot as an object on the whiteboard. How handy is that? That's an optional thing. You're not required to do that. But this is kind of what I'm talking about here, is we give you opportunity to make some of these tools work together. So you have opportunities to run content in some interesting ways. Yes, sir.
2 questions.
Hit me.
First one, can we connect an algo to the smart link? That's a
Okay, so the first thing is this. This is not a smart board. That's an actual branded thing. Company called Smart. Good friends of ours. Very, very good friends of ours. The technical term for this is interactive display. Panel. It's called a panel. Okay, so but the answer to the question is, you can connect a document camera to the panel like a source, like you would a laptop. That is not the way I would do it. The way I would do it is I would connect it to your computer. Do me a favor, hold on to that thought, because I'm going to need to come back to that. Because I got a thought about that I'm going to come back to. What's the second question?
when you screen share with an iPad, why is there no sound?
Okay, so the question I would have for you is, when you did that with the iPad, did you use display note? Because the thing about iOS is iOS does not support sound via display note. That's not, because that's not in display note. that's in the operating system, though our good friends at DisplayNote are working on that. If you've got to have sound, and if you're on an Apple thing, AirPlay it, because you can get sound via AirPlay. Cool? Okay, yeah, hold on to that first question, because I'm going to want to come back to that. We'll come back to the whiteboard. We'll come back to the whiteboard. Before I go back to the whiteboard, I do want to point out, I'm sorry, wait a minute, one more thing. When we are doing this, if you are casting from a Windows 10 device, Windows 10 is currently the only operating system that supports this natively. If you are casting from a Windows 10 machine and you are using DisplayNote for Windows, which is the correct way to do it, bidirectional touch is supported, meaning that you can cast your laptop up here, walk up here, and control your laptop on the screen. Okay, that works. That works, but let's be real for a second. Is it as snappy as having your laptop physically connected to the panel? I think you know the answer to that. It's a wireless thing. It has to come up here and then come back down. So yeah, there's going to be some lag, guys. There's going to be some lag. Tim, who is now referring to himself in third person, that's where we are now. Tim would not do that a full school day, because I know what that's going to be. But if I got to police the room for a minute, it's nice to know, untether myself and police the room, and then come back up here and touch a thing if I got to touch a thing. There's going to be a little bit of a lag when I do that, but it's going to work. But under normal circumstances, I'm going to want to have my laptop plugged in. That's going to be the snappiest way to do it. There we go. Okay. And no, you cannot have, that doesn't work if you got more than one thing casting. Your laptop can be the only thing casting if you want to touch your way through it. Okay, now I'm done with that. Now I'm done with that. So we talked about the gadgets. Honestly, guys, there's not really a lot of reason for you to be in here except to access the things that we talked about, which you can put in the shortcut area anyway. So there's really not a lot for you to do in there, honestly. I mean, it's like people think, oh, but Tim, what about the clock? What if I want to do things with the clock? Well, okay, then just touch the clock. Okay, and then you get your stopwatch and your timer and your alarm clock. Cool. So do that. See, we try and make it as easy as possible, guys. We really do. So chances are there's an easier way to do a thing rather than going to that gadgets place. But that's okay. But you can explore that. Don't feel like you can't. The file viewer, I mentioned this. Now describe it to you in detail. Yeah. Okay, we do this. It only does this once. Good. Okay. So this is where you go when you've taken snapshots using the annotation tools on the panel, or when you've created whiteboard pages in the whiteboard, because they automatically get saved here. In this pictures folder, you give that a touch, there they are, okay? So you can get access to them later if you need to. Now I will tell you, do not think that this is going to be a permanent repository of things you do. You want to treat it like it's a temporary place, and then you go and you dump it someplace else, okay? Which you can do. Think of it like you would do it on a phone. It really does work like that, where you touch the dots, and then you can move or copy it someplace else, okay? Which you will want to do. Because every 30 days, there's a housekeeping routine. Every 30 days, the panel's going to go in here with a giant broom, sweep everything out of here. So don't think of this as a permanent place you're going to put stuff, because the panel will make sure that that doesn't happen, okay? But that's where these things go when you are doing these things. Otherwise, no, there's not a lot of reason. You're not going to spend a lot of time here. You're not going to spend a lot of time here. But I want to make sure you knew that that's where that happened. And then finally here, we have the browser, right? Now, when you get the choice you want to make, do not choose browser. Do not choose that one. That's kind of like, you know, when you get a new phone, and one of the first things you do when you power up your phone is you go and you get Chrome or Firefox or whatever, because you know the browser that came with the phone is not great. It's kind of like that. So choose the Chromium one, because it's kind of like Chrome. It's basically Chrome. Okay, and then you can choose always if you want to, but this isn't my panel, so I'm just going to choose just once. Okay, and then there we go. And then you got to do you only have to do this once. You don't have to do this one. Yeah. Okay. All right. So there it is, Chrome. Now, here's a pop quiz. Are we looking at the kind of Chrome that we would get on a computer or a Chromebook? He's shaking his head no, but you're kibitzing. I knew you knew the answer. I knew that you knew the answer. All right, he's right. The answer is no. What kind of Chrome is this, my man? Okay, well, your answer, okay, he gave you the nerd answer. It's correct. That's correct. All right, but the straightforward answer is it's like Chrome you get on one of these things. It's mobile. It is like mobile Chrome. Why is it important for us to know that the browser on this panel is a mobile browser? Why is that important?
Because you can't play YouTube from it.
Because you can't play YouTube from it. That is actually correct. That is actually correct. But the extension to that is that when we pull up websites on here, we're pulling up mobile versions of those websites. 9 times out of 10, guys, that's going to be fine, really. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be fine. But there's going to be that one time, YouTube being an example, there's going to be that one time where you're going to want to fire up something on here and it's not going to like it. It's not going to like it, okay? In which case, your simplest solution, when you run into a situation like that, is go home, roll to your computer, fire up your favorite browser on your computer, and then do it. Don't overthink that, please, okay? That's the idea there. But it's nice to know that the panel's got you when all you got to do is, I mean, I just need to go see what happened with the guy at the time with that place. You can do that. The browser is good for that. It's perfectly fine for that. So we may see that in action a little bit later, but I'm going to go ahead. I'm already home. What am I doing? Okay, let's go back to the whiteboard. So now we're going to spend some time here because, I talk about this panel in a toolbox, and you open the toolbox and then you dig tools out of it. Okay, here's the thing with the whiteboard. So the panel's a toolbox, and then you dig out another toolbox inside of the toolbox, and then you open that. That's the whiteboard. So it's like a Russian nesting doll that way, okay? And we have lots of stuff here that we can go to. Please do not get lost in the feature forest. It's not about that, but I want to make sure that you guys know that there's some capability here so that you can make decisions on whether or not that's going to make sense for you to deliver content to your students. Okay, you're going to make an adjustment. Good. My man's on it. He's on it. Okay. If I didn't say anything to you about how this works, you would know inherently that there are writing tools down there. How do we know that? Because they look like writing tools. So we give that a touch, right? You saw me do this before, what's this with the color and the thickness. If you want to get fancy with that color palette, you can go ahead and get all kinds of fancy there. I'm going to stick with a basic one. Okay. And then once again, I'm going to grab my thin-tipped writing utensil. Did you notice I did not use the word stylus? You didn't notice that, doesn't matter. Okay, but the reason I didn't is because it doesn't have to be the stylus. I've used chopsticks, coffee stirrers, busted pencils, wooden dowels I stole from my wife's workshop and not told her. Anything wood or plastic is fine. You want to avoid metal, you want to avoid your wedding rings, okay? But anything that can cut glass, just common sense, guys. Okay, but anything wood or plastic, fine. Reach your desk drawer and grab a mechanical pencil. I forgot mine. Otherwise, I would have done that magic trick. I would have pulled that out. But yes, that works too. Okay, but these though are lovely. You get 2 of these in the box. So the point I'm making is if they walk away, that's not a crisis. But these are lovely. They feel like writing utensils. They got our logo on them. Man, that's classy. So you're welcome to use these to your heart's content. And the reason we care about the thin thing, because I keep saying that over and over again, is thin means write with lovely, beautiful, beautiful handwriting. Thin means write. Thick means select. Oh, hey, look, I can, oh, yeah, move stuff. Okay, cool. Oh, by the way, the canvas is an infinite canvas. Got lots of workspace here. Can I take another finger, make that pinch to zoom thing happen? Yep. Nice. Okay, gotta be 100. Gotta be 100. Gotta be 100. Okay. Take it a step further. Palm or fist. I like fist. Erase. It's called object recognition. To write that down. It's called object recognition. That's not a Newline thing. That's not a Newline thing. Lots of people, lots of stuff does that. But our implementation of that is pretty good. And the idea behind it is that you can perform basic functions and you don't have to keep pressing buttons to do that. Yes.
Okay, so 2 questions. Robert, why you iPads. The one that asked
Oh,
about,
we're back on the casting.
and that he's using the screen share, and he says that it keeps timing out.
I'm going to throw them under the bus. Sorry, guys. Sorry, I'm going to throw them under the bus. If you have a situation where you get continual drops.
Girls in the department.
Oh, okay. Well, then, but how come? Wait a minute. Why are you not? That's not cool. It's not cool. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. But wouldn't you rather I just throw them under the bus and kind of leave you out of that? Wouldn't that be a better thing for you? This is, I'm trying to help here. Okay, so in a situation where you're getting continual drops, yeah, there are guys, particularly if it's just one panel that's doing that. Yeah, that's gonna be something to happen on the network. Now, what I can do is I'll make sure that the guys and gals have the necessary stuff, because we do have white paper that shows how the network does have to be configured in order for Newline Cast to be at its best. It looked pretty good when I was doing it, and I was on my dumb phone, and I wasn't even on the Wi-Fi on that phone, so it looked pretty good. But it's good for you guys to have that just in case something, right? But if you're talking one panel, guys, yeah, I'm not going to have any good information for you on that. But what's the next question?
How do you change the color? I have a
So remember, if you see the kind of the grayish blue, that means you're on the classic whiteboard. So you have to go into settings, go to whiteboard, change it to the new whiteboard, and then you'll be on the newest whiteboard. Okay. Now, yes, can we change the yes, I'm going to show you that in a second, but make sure that you're running the new whiteboard. Absolutely. If you need help with that, I will throw everybody on the bus for that. You can get help from your friends with that. So I talked about the writing tools. Yes, sir.
Big question. On that pen, sometimes that little point falls off of it. And you try to use it, but when you touch the little point, on mine, it fell off.
Oh, congratulations on that, because man, I can't.
I know, there's a lot of pen. Okay, but the point is that when I try to use it still, like you can use almost anything, but when you try to do it, and I start writing with it,
Yeah.
what appears on the screen is all of a sudden like a little grid.
Yeah, because the point's not thin enough now. The point has to be thinner. If that pops out of there, now this is going to be too thick. It's going to think it's like this. That's what's happening. So in that case, grab a chopstick from lunch or a coffee stirrer or a busted pencil or a wooden dowel that you stole from your wife's workshop and not told her. Because that will work fine. No, that's a thing. That's a thing. I do. And then she gets mad at me when I do that. So the good news is if these get broken or lost, you have other options for making that happen, but it's got to be a thin point. That's the key. It's a point. Good question though. Okay. All right, cool. We good? Okay, sweet. All right. So let's talk now about the canvas, right? Because the canvas is actually, let me back up. So I did the object recognition piece. That's where I left off. I did the object recognition piece and I showed you that worked. But it stands to reason that you or your students might write with your finger, right? So you don't want this to be a selector. You want it to be a writer. You can do that. The way you make that happen is, look, it's gear button. We know what that means. We know what gear button means. It means settings. And then object recognition is the first item there on the menu. We want option number 2, right, with fine pen or fingers. When we do that, I think you can probably figure out what happens. Yes. Now we can have some fun with this. Here's how we have fun with this. So I'm going to take my thin utensil. I'm going to touch color. I'm going to keep that. I like that. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to close it. I'm going to take my finger. I'm going to do the same thing. Different color, different thickness. And then I'm going to, hello. So you can, in fact, assign a different writing tool to the thin and the thick. You can leverage the multi-touch capabilities of the panel and have them operating at the same time. So that's a fun thing you can do. But a thing that we can't do now is because this is a writer, I cannot move the infinite canvas around. I got to touch a button to do that. It looks like a compass right here. Give that a touch, infinite canvas. So it's just a question of what's more important to you, that you can write with your finger or that you press as few buttons as possible. The answer to that question will tell you how we'll set that up. And there's no rule. You can go back and forth at will. Just go in here, choose whichever one you want, whenever you want. No big deal. okay? But that's how we make that work. Now let's talk about the canvas itself. So it's a blank white canvas by default. Normally that's probably gonna be all right. But I'll tell you though, that if you want it to be something other than a boring blank white canvas, you can absolutely do that. Here I got a button that looks like a plus. Plus means new page. You knew that already. But wait, touch and hold it for a second, and oh, background. Okay, cool. Here we go. Color, make it that, and then pattern. And ooh, boy, got some options here, don't I? Let's go with that one. Hit add, and boom. So we can absolutely have the canvas be something other than a blank white canvas. So go wild. Have some fun with that. Now, really want to get fancy with this, and this isn't my panel, so I'm not going to be able to actually do it, but if you really want to get fancy with this, let's say that for fun, you've got this nice picture of the Earth viewed from space, and you're thinking, hey, that'd be cool if that could be the background for my whiteboard. Yeah, you can do that. Touch and hold, background window, pattern section, scroll all the way down. There's a button down there labeled custom. Hit that button and you can import a picture from someplace and have that be the canvas for your whiteboard. Nice, huh? Optional, but have fun, play with that. Now here's a pro tip. If you're going to try that, and I invite you to do so, but if you're gonna try that, sure that you use a very high picture. Remember, these are big 4K displays, right? So you wanna use at least 4K pictures. If you use a low-res picture, it's just gonna be this little box in the middle of the screen. That's dumb. No, what you want to do is use a 4K picture, and that will give you the best chance of having that fill the whole screen. Okay, so that's my pro tip. Use at least 4K pictures if you want to do that. But you can do that if you want, okay? So, writing tools, cool. Lines and shapes, I know I didn't show it to you, but you would have figured that out. Lines and shapes, that's what they are. And then the canvas, infinite canvas, change the background, cool, right? I mean, that's a lot right there. That's a lot right there, and that's great. If you feel good about that, we can call it good right there, but that's it. Yes, ma'am.
Infinite canvas except when you change the background?
Well, no, so keep it, so let me do this here. All right. Now, the thing about the background is static. It's not gonna move anywhere. It's still an infinite canvas, but that background's not gonna change. That is static. Okay, so keep that in mind, that if you're thinking that the lines or whatever are going to move, then no, those things will stay in place. But the canvas is still an infinite canvas. Okay, good question. All right, so now let's kind of head to the penthouse in terms of what this thing is capable of doing. If I go over here to this side of the screen, I got a button that's just 3 dots in a row. It doesn't look very exciting, but it is a very exciting box, because, or window rather. Our options window, we do have options here. We can insert images as objects, text boxes, sticky notes. Put those sticky notes. I won't say you can't. Have fun with that. Ooh, PDFs. We can throw PDFs on here. Yes, we can. I'm going to show you that in a minute. But first, let's do some search fun. Search image. Let's do that. Okay, cool. Search box. All right, right on. Put a cursor there. Oh, there's a touch keyboard. Okay. Puppies. And we'll do a search for puppies. And it leverages Google image search to give me puppies. Oh, look at that guy right there. He's so funny, and I'm going to grab him. Nice, huh? Puppy. So there's a lot of capability here, guys. There's a lot of capability here. Don't get lost in the feature forest. Just recognize it's a toolbox. You bring a tool out. If it makes sense, you use it. If it doesn't make sense, the panel's feelings will not be hurt. You move on to the next thing. There's never any reason for you to overthink this, because at the end of the day, the panel is what I said it is. It is a vehicle for you to deliver stuff. Newline weirdo is not going to tell you what that is. You get to make decisions on what that is, but that's what I'm doing here, is I'm just guiding you through this. Now I got a couple more things to show you, then we'll move on to the next thing. We're actually almost done here, kids. We're almost done. So 2 more things in the options menu. The first thing is, when I open that back up and go to this Canvas tab here, I got 1 button there. It's labeled Split Mode. 2 whiteboards for the price of 1. So you can split the whiteboard in half, bring a couple students up here, have some fun with that. Basic writing tools, basic white background, no object recognition, none of that. It's just very, very essential, okay? But we can do something else here. Got another menu button up here. Give that a touch. 3 split, for real, for real, for real. 1, 2, 3 for the price of one. Yes, ma'am.
I mean, I have two questions. Number one, the stand that it's on is adjustable, right?
I have no idea.
Because what I'm is gonna have to be high enough so the students can see it. And I don't think it's the button. There's not, you, so they're screwed in. I can't hear you. They're screwed in, so it's not adjustable. So I have.
I'm totally throwing them under the bus for that.
No, it's not.
What's your second question? Is the second question a panel thing?
No. Just lighting what's from your laptop.
Yeah.
And freeze the screen, so you can
Yeah.
put stuff on your laptop that you don't see.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a freeze button on the remote. There's also a freeze control on the panel. Make a peace sign, peace. Go to the kind of the logo down here at the bottom, flick up from the bottom, gives you this overlay menu. And there's also a freeze button there to do exactly as she said. Lock the image in place, you do a thing, and I want the students to see this, then you touch the panel and it unfreezes it. Yeah. Good. What else? So the second one was a Newline one, good, okay. What else, good, okay. So, yes. Help him out, how did I do that? How did I make the overlay menu happen? Peace. Flick. Takes practice. Practice is all the wrist. All right, okay, so split the whiteboard. Last thing in the option, well actually, I wanna go back to the puppy. If I wanna go back to the puppy, once again, my friend the side toolbar, right below the house, I got a swoopy arrow button. It goes whoop, like that. Back me out of my current thing to the last thing I had. Okay, so that's another way that the side toolbar can be useful to you. Last dance in the options menu. This time I'm gonna go back to my add tab. I'm gonna scroll all the way down, and I got an item there labeled YouTube video. How fun is that? So the idea behind this is to allow you to introduce a YouTube video to the equation. I want a video that's not me. That'll work. This will work. That's not me. And you can bring that window right onto the whiteboard. I didn't know this one was me. All right, dude, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. Okay. Well, I didn't know that one was me. I thought that was somebody else. Okay, so here's what this really does. What this really does is it allows you to introduce a YouTube video without leaving the whiteboard. That's the idea here, okay? And so you're not gonna, you can't annotate over it. It's an overlay, so you can't write on it, all right? But what you can do is you can move it someplace and then use the rest of the whiteboard to do stuff. So it's very simple. Just get a YouTube window in there and you don't have to leave the whiteboard to do it. And then when you're done, you can get out of it, which I'm happy to do. So that's really it, guys. It's just a very simple, get a YouTube window in there. Nice, huh? So last thing I'm gonna show you on the whiteboard. Over here on this side of the screen, I got a little round button that has a little dude with arrow. Little dude with arrow brings up this window. This allows us, we're using Google's ecosystem here, are we not? We're using Google's ecosystem? Google, okay. So you can, from the whiteboard, access your Google Drive. So you can take pictures and PDFs, because that's what the whiteboard will support, and stick them on the whiteboard pages, and also take pages you created and export those directly to your Google Drive. Nice, huh? I got two ways to do that. Hit that sign in button, Google sign in page comes up here, touch keyboard, sign in that way. If there are students in the room, probably not a good idea to type in your credentials on a giant touch keyboard on the screen. Yeah, so that's why we have this QR code. So once again, I'm gonna need my glasses for this. So I will take my pocket internet machine. I'm gonna fire up the pocket, get rid of phone mess first. Hang on, phone mess. Get rid of the big cat. He was fun though. Okay, so here comes my QR code reader. Gonna scan the code. It's not a special QR code reader, it's just whatever you got, okay? And then it gives you a website. When you go to the website on your device, it's what links these things together. A message will come up that will say, sign into your Newline whiteboard using your Google account. Okay, you'll hit sign in. Then you get Google single sign in on your phone. Of course, I got no bandwidth today. On your phone, that's what you want. And then you touch your account. You know how this works. You've logged into Google stuff before. You know how this works. But here's a thing. Here's a thing that I learned the hard way, so you don't have to. Google, I'm guessing, made some kind of a change to their security protocols, because I never had to do this before. But what will happen is, you know, whenever you sign into a Google thing, or sign into your Google account rather from a place, Google always gives you that page, right, where it says, hey, this place wants you to access all your Google stuff. And it's like, yeah, I know this, thank you. And then there's all the, you know, and you just ignore it. Okay, well, here's the thing about that. When the list comes up, Google Drive will be the last thing on the list. It will not have a check in it. This is the thing I learned the hard way. You have to put the check in it. If you don't do that, the whiteboard Google Drive follows and defeats the whole purpose of doing this. So put the check in there and finish signing in. You'll know you did it correctly because you'll see the little link and Google Drive. If you don't see that, sign out and try again. Yes, sir.
So I have a question from Lisa Rock. Why does the Newline board need access to my Google Drive files to see, create, delete all my files?
It doesn't. That's the answer. It doesn't. You don't need to do that. You know, that's absolutely not necessary. It is possible. And by the way, I'm not even talking about this. What I'm talking about is just from the whiteboard. Can you, in the file commander that I showed you, can you put your Google Drive on there? And do, yeah, but you don't want to do that. Don't do that. Because that's not very secure. If you do that, anybody can walk up to the panel and access your Google Drive. So don't do that. Okay. So the short answer to your question is that's not necessary. That's one reason why you want to try and confine your Google life to your computer as opposed to the panel. Now this is cool and this is secure because this isn't a whiteboard. You're not messing with your Google Drive. You're just getting access to things. That's it, okay? But having Google Drive actually ensconced on your panel, I don't recommend that. I don't recommend that. Okay, cool, good, okay. So now that this is good, and I'm good here, then I got this folder button. I can put my glasses away. I got this folder button right here. It's got a cloud next to it. I wonder what that means. That's my cloud space. That's my Google Drive. Oh, I got a PDF right there. Isn't that convenient? Do that, touch the plus. Nice, huh? Put that on the screen all nice and format it for me. This is a 2-page document. I want the second page. I got page numbers. I touch page numbers. Oh, navigation. There it is. Hey, nice. Oh, that's beautiful. Well, I got to be on the pen. There we go. Okay, beautiful. Can I export? Sure. Right next door, got a funny looking QR code button with an arrow going that way. It's goofy, but that means export. And if I'm logged into my Google Drive on the board, that's a choice. Or if I'd rather use a thumb drive or some USB thing plugged into a USB port, I can do that too. We got USB ports all over the place in this panel. Or if I want to get really fancy, if my pocket internet machine is on the same network as the panel, I can scan that QR code, download it directly to that device. Nice, huh? So there are some convenient ways to do this. And I invite you to choose whichever one you think is best. So I wouldn't lose too much sleep over that QR code thing. It's cool, but you know, the Google Drive or the thumb drive thing would be okay in your case as well. So kids, that's the whiteboard in a nutshell. Any questions about that? I know I threw a lot at you there. I did. It's a toolbox within a toolbox. It really is. Cool. Okay.
So I have a question from about changing the background on the whiteboard. I can't use the whiteboard, but I think he may need somebody to go and actually get eyes on it.
Probably. So we're gonna let that one slide. We're gonna let that one slide.
Try to see if this says on Tuesday.
Okay, Tuesday. Put that on your calendar. We good? Okay. I'm gonna head back home. All right, guys, last. So when I did the PDF thing, that was pretty cool, yeah? Because, I'm gonna need that. Because, it's nice to know that the whiteboard's got me when I wanna work with, pretty straightforward things, pictures, PDFs. But maybe I'm in a situation, I really do want to live my Google life. And I want to be in Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides. The whiteboard can't help me there. Okay. Now, the screen annotation tool, sure, but that's still not the best solution because those tools are not going to be as comprehensive as what I'm going to show you. So the last thing I'm going to show you today is a thing that I have verified on more than one occasion does work on the panel's Chromium browser. I have verified that. That's still not my preferred way to do it. My preferred way to do it is to use my computer for the reasons we talked about. That's the higher performance experience. So I'm still going to roll to my computer to do this, but I can verify and confirm for you that the panel's embedded browser will work for what I'm about to show you. And the thing I'm going to show you is a thing that you might already be familiar with. Gonna head there now. I hope I'm signed in. I think I'm signed in. We're about to find out. We're about to find out if I'm signed in. Okay. Raise your hand if you're familiar with this thing called Hdmi. I know you know what it is. I know she knows what it is. So yes, okay, for those of you not familiar with this, ladies and gentlemen, get familiar with Hdmi. This can be one of your best friends. Because what Hdmi does, for those of you not familiar, it is a portal that works with documentation. It could be Microsoft stuff, although there are other ways to do that. It could be PDFs, and it can be Google stuff. In fact, part of the reason that Hdmi came into existence in the first place is in response to the fact that the Google ecosystem does not have great native annotation tools. You have to have alternatives for that. And this is probably the best one, at least for my money, it's the best one. So when we do this, when you create an account, it uses Google single sign-in. How about that? So once your Google stuff, and when you sign in for real, what Hdmi wants you to do is Hdmi wants you to grab a document from someplace, okay? That can be from your Google Drive, it can be from your computer, or if you've done things in Hdmi recently, there's a recents folder there. Okay, cool, because it's cloud-based. So it remembers things we did recently. So I'm going to pull up this PDF. Here it comes. It's the same one I used on the whiteboard. Oh, look, wow. It remembers where we left off the last time we were in that thing. That's pretty handy. Okay, but I'm going to erase this. Let's pretend that I just got here. Okay? Now, guys, don't overthink the menu. Don't overthink the menu. Everything's in English, all right? You'll be able to figure it out. I'm positive. Okay, but select, that's pointing mode. You can scroll up and down your thing. You can take 2 fingers. You can zoom in and out of that thing. Okay, that works. But here's where the magic really happens. Where the magic happens is, remember object recognition? Yeah, guess what else uses that? Hdmi uses that. Touch drawing tool, touch color, touch another color. I'm going to keep touching colors. I'm going to keep touching colors until I see that's what I want to see. You just keep touching colors until you see that. When you see stylus detected, then that means thin is right. For real, thin is right. Thick, yup. Oh, by the way, the ink sticks to the pages. Game changer. So when you are living your presentation life, your worksheet life, your spreadsheet life, Hdmi can be one of your best friends because it's comprehensive. It'll load up common document types. The ink sticks. It sticks. You just move right on through. And this is free. You don't have to pay for it. Hdmi's got wonderful stuff behind the paywall. They do. But the nice thing is they're very cool about this. They don't make you pay to do everything I showed you. And if you want to throw stuff back to your Google Drive, you can throw annotated copies of things back to your Google Drive. Okay, cool? So that would be a place. If I'm looking for a place to explore as I'm getting familiar with my panel, that's the thing, kids. Hdmi is going to be one of your best friends. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the show. I will now open it up to any further questions, comments, concerns. You got anything? My man is good? Say that one more time. No. Why? We got Newline cast. Why do we need Chromecast if we got Newline cast? Well, okay, so then hit the button and display your screen. I see where you're going. I see where you're going. I'm being facetious here. Well, what are you trying to cast? What kind of device are you trying to cast from? Well, now keep in mind, if we're on a Chromecast device, there's no bidirectional touch. So that wouldn't work. But Newline Cast has that. So you can cast your Windows thing using DisplayNote for Windows, come up here and touch your way through that thing. You can't do that on a Chromecast. Gotcha. It's not a contest. It's not a contest. Not entirely. Anything else? Other questions, comments, concerns? I explained everything else so beautifully and clearly. Requires no further explanation whatsoever. Actually, I'm at that point. I'm getting the zombie eyes. It happens at this time where I've thrown it all at you, and you're like, no, enough, man, enough. Okay, if you want to come up and see me, come up and see me. I don't know where you guys are supposed to go next, but as far as I'm concerned, flee. I thank you. Scram. See ya. No, stop it. No, come on. I deserve so much more than that.